is take 4 of this episode, and I had to go through a lot last night. I was tired. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm human. I was tired. And now that I got some much needed rest, I have been able to recharge. Now we can get through to this episode of the duality of man and woman. And I had an interesting week. Some of the things that have occurred were out of my control. I have been in and out of, work and home, and I don't really do much else, right? Like, if it's not work, if it's not home, if it's not skating, if it's not going out to brunch, that's all I do, right? So I think that people get it misconstrued of like how my life goes, because I'm not a person who is just going to be out and about all the time. Like, I really only do it when necessary, or it's purpose behind it, right? So for me, I think that you know getting out and being around people that remind you of who you are is important, right? They remind you of who you are, not what you are. And this was something that I read in a self-care book about how we get through things, right? We don't sit there and get misconstrued on how things are. Oh man. So for me, I get this I get this assumption that I am doing things to make people feel a way, and whole time I'm just living my life. I'm doing me, right? And that offends people who thought that I would stop living my life to serve them. And we aren't given the time to necessarily rest ourselves as men. Sometimes we just gotta work through it, right? We just gotta push through the tiredness. We gotta push through the I don't wanna be at work, or I don't wanna be here, right? We just gotta push through it. And I think that a lot of times there's this disconnect from men and women because of our position, right? We are, looked at to be strong. We are looked at to be the protectors, the providers, all of that stuff. And while I'm not here to argue against that, this is something that was appointed by God. I'm not here to change that. What I am here to say is that we have it misconstrued today, right? We have it to where there's this lopsided effect when all of the responsibilities are placed on one person. The other person is expected to come through, right? Or to, help, basically. And I think for men these days, they have tried to get that help or receive that help, but it's not always met with the right help, right? So this is where your support group, your support system comes in. Therapists, licensed therapists, not just the people that consider your therapist, your friends, or your, buddies, anything like that. We are talking about licensed people who can actually help you, right? And for me, it's funny because my last therapy session was a few months ago, and I had to cancel it because I was working. And I hate that that's the case for me because in the times where, like right now, I'm not working, I have to pay all this other stuff. I have to make sure people are good. And again, while I'm not sitting here complaining about that, I'm also just trying to gain this balance of like, okay, gotta go to work, gotta do that, to continue doing what I do, right? I gotta continue to push forward so that I can continue to give y'all the content. And again, this is just me talking to y'all. This isn't a part of the episode. This isn't, you know, me going in on women or anything like that. This is just me saying real talk, how I feel about myself and my situation right now. Um, I had a thought to go on a solo trip for my birthday, and right now it's up in the air. Not because I don't want to go or I don't have the means to go, but it just seems like it would be selfish of me to just drop everything here to go on a trip just because it's my 30th or anything like that. So now I'm just like, well, okay, well, I'm already here at the point of like, this is it. Like I don't see a thing that's holding me back. Like, but at the same time, it's like I'm also being watched, right? I'm also being looked at by people who don't necessarily say anything, right? They don't say anything all the time, but I'm being watched. And that's just funny to me how, people can watch, they can view all day long, but they don't say anything. They don't call you to check up on you. They don't, ask to see how you really doing. They just see you out and about, and they make their assumptions about how you feel. And that's most people. That's humans. But we get this idea of like, okay, if he's doing this, then it must be that. And this is why I would invite the conversation, right? I would invite people to come talk to me about how I truly feel, because if you really talk to me, if you really sat down with me, you would understand that that's not the case, right? Most of the time when I'm going out with people, I'm trying to connect. I'm trying to see how it is that we can work together or collaborate, and I can't force it with everyone. I'm not trying to force it. But, when it comes to me going out with my brunch lovers or me making this content, whether I'm having guests on or not, that's my time to connect with people. Or even when I go out skating, like I may not be skating with a group of people, but I'm connecting with people who enjoy what they do. They enjoy the music. They enjoy the funny moments. And to me, again, that's what it's all about. That's what this life is about. Not just about getting money. It's not just about increasing your income. It's not about all of these things that the world makes it about. It's about you connecting with real people. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into this episode. I thank you for being patient with me. Um, right now, it's early in the morning. This is truly a blessing to be able to do this. So, without further ado, welcome back to Before the Fame podcast. This is your host, Jordan. And man, this week has been long, it's been tiresome, and I'm glad that we're here on this good day. It's actually Friday today. I was supposed to get y'all this episode yesterday, but things happen, you know. I'm not perfect. Um, but in honor of the Truth Thursday, because man, it was a lot. Let me just go through my Thursday for y'all. So I woke up yesterday morning. I went to work and I got there, and it just seemed like everything that could go wrong went wrong, right? Only five people showed up to do a job that we normally have double that amount. Um, the person that was hired to be the lead was not there. So while everyone is trying to go around to see what to do and how to do it, I'm just sitting there watching everything happen, right? And this isn't to say that, I couldn't be the lead or anything, but I'm literally just sitting around and observing how things unfold, because this is why I don't take lead positions. This is why I don't put myself in that spot, because when I don't show up, it's gonna be hell. Like, everybody's gonna have to shoulder the load, and I don't want people to depend on me that much, right? Like, I know that I'm a good worker, I know I'm a hard worker, but I just don't want people to depend on me that much. But anyways, the scanners that we used weren't working. The people were stopping their work to go talk on the phone. It was just a lot of things going on. And the one thing that I got from this is that, this is the beginning of Gemini season, right? Shout out to my Gemini brothers and sisters. But this is the beginning of Gemini season. And it just seemed like everything was hectic, right? It was hot. The people weren't feeling the work today, which I get it, right? I'm not a person that is always feeling the work, but when we got stuff to do, I'm also the person like, hey, let's just get it done. Like, I don't care how we got to do it. If one person got to do this, another person got to do that. All right, cool. So I took it upon myself to do three jobs at once. So I'm over here trying to scan packages. I'm over here trying to load them. I'm over here trying to do everybody's job essentially, and also just get through the shift. So after 4 hours of that, I was able to get off of work, and I did get some productivity done. I got my laces, or not my laces, my jam plugs for my skates. I got those fixed. So I'm thankful for that. But now that I'm home, I felt like I needed to rest, man. I needed to get some rest. And that's what I did. Like, I took some time to unwind. I ate, and I tried to get y'all this episode. I'm gonna just let y'all know that now. I tried to get y'all this episode, but things weren't working out. So I just decided, you know what? Let me just work on this in the morning. So here we are, right? Here we are. And now we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. Today's episode is the duality of man and woman. And I want to be specific when I say this. This is about black man, the black man, and the black woman. Okay, so don't get it construed. These topics are for the black man, the black woman, um, and there's a lot of things that we can talk about when it comes to duality, right? We can talk about, balance. We can talk about roles. We can talk about, all the things that are brought up in the dating world, or, just various topics, right? But I want to focus on two for each gender, and we're going to try to keep this, under an hour. I know that we could go on and on about these topics, right? We could go on and on, but for this first one, duality of man, right? This is about holding both fire and faith, right? Because on one side, you have that burning passion to go out and do whatever is needed, whatever is necessary for your family, right? And I kind of get into that when we talk about the work life, when we talk about, the people that we encounter daily. But there's also the faith side of things, right? When you know that, hey, you don't necessarily want to do this, but you have faith that it's going to work out anyways, right? Whatever it is, whether it's you working, whether it's your home life, whether it's your relationships, you know it's going to work out as long as you have faith in whatever it is. So, what is duality, right? The coexistence of two seemingly opposite forces within a person. And we could talk about this in two different ways, right? So when you saying, hey, you got the fire on this shoulder and you got the faith on this shoulder, right? That's duality. But then we can also talk about it from the light shadow, right? That's another way we can say, hey, this is the duality that, if we embrace both of these sides of ourselves, we can look at ourselves as whole, right? We don't have to just look at ourselves as a piece of a man or a piece of, this spirit, right? So again, some examples of duality: mind versus spirit, power versus tenderness, instinct versus intention. But today we're going to talk about desire versus discipline, right? So, desire versus discipline is a very interesting topic because while we are told to not desire certain things in life, it's human nature, right? We are humans that crave these things, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to act upon it, right? You could be a person that craves sugar at any point of the day. That doesn't mean that you should eat that Snickers, or, that you should go for that donut or whatever. It's also okay to desire these things, right? It's okay to say that, hey, I haven't, been over my calorie limit. I can eat this. Or I haven't, necessarily gone down this path. Let me enjoy myself for a little bit, right? But on the other side of that, you have to be disciplined, right? You have to show discipline through your actions, through your words, through how you choose to navigate. Because in that discipline, now you are showing that not only are you putting this desire, not to the side, right? You're not just disregarding your desire, you're honoring yourself. You're honoring yourself by saying, hey, I'm going to stay disciplined. I'm going to desire the things that are going to bring me peace. They're going to bring me joy. right? And that again is, it's okay to have both, right? It's okay to desire things, but it's also necessary for us to be disciplined, right? As men, we get told a lot about, our sexual discipline, our penis discipline, however you want to word it. It's all in how we choose to honor our desires and our discipline. Because again, like, it's okay to want to desire these things, right? If you're a person, you want to have multiple women in your life, that's okay if all parties involved agree, right? That's okay. Somebody else that's not a part of that may not agree, but they aren't a part of it. So these things that we desire, whether it's in our personal lives, in our work lives, or just in general, it's okay, right? As long as we have discipline, as long as we're honoring both sides of this, it's okay. So that's the first one. But now the second one is kind of coinciding with this, but it's a more spiritual tip, right? This is the flesh versus the spirit. And when we get to talking about the flesh, right, it coincides with our desires, because your flesh could be saying, hey, I want to lay down, right? And everything in you is telling you that you should stay up, or that you should, you know, get up, make sure that this is taken care of, this is taken care of, this is taken care of. And that takes discipline, right? That all of that takes discipline. But when we get into the spiritual side of things, a lot of people, they don't want to talk about how their spirit is going to have a stronger voice, right? That spirit voice, unless you're a person, you like to drown out your spirit and just let your flesh take over, your spirit is going to be the alarm that wakes you up, right? For me, I know that's the thing, right? If I just depended on my body to wake me up, I would oversleep every day. Like that, my body wants rest. It's telling me to lay down right now. But my spirit is the one that gets me up, right? My spirit is what keeps me going to work every day. My spirit is what keeps me throughout the shift. My spirit is what's telling me, hey, get up and make that episode. Get up and, do the things that you promised that you were going to do. And that is why when we talk about this flesh talk, it's very powerful for men, because we, a lot of times, our flesh are giving us the signals to do things that we don't necessarily need to do, or we shouldn't be doing, right? And we're not going to get into what it is that we should or shouldn't be doing, but when it comes to duality of man, you have to honor these things, right? You have to embrace the fact that, hey, my flesh is my flesh, right? And also, when it comes to our bodies being our temple, that kind of puts us in the bind when we are talking about, tattoos or piercings, things of these nature. I'm a person, I have plenty of tattoos, right? I have tattoos on my back, I have tattoos on my chest. And when it came down to it, it was a purpose behind it. It wasn't just, hey, I want to get a tattoo because it looks cool, right? All of my tattoos have meaning. All of my tattoos are inspired by something. And this is why, again, I'm not a person who just says, oh, you should honor your spirit, right? You should only do what the spirit moves you to do. Like, no, right? Sometimes you're going to desire things that your flesh, again, it necessarily, it doesn't have to be morally right to everyone, right? Everyone doesn't like tattoos. And I honor the fact that, hey, you don't want to tat your body up, cool. There's something that your flesh wants that it's not going to be agreeable to other people, right? The fact of the matter is, as men, you have to say, hey, I did this because of this, right? You have to be clear on why you're doing it. You have to be clear on your intentions behind it. And 9 times out of 10, if it's not hurting anyone, if it's not demeaning anyone's character or their spirit, I say go for it. Right? I'm not, again, the person that's gonna say do the right thing according to the spirit all the time. That's not me. So those are our 2 points on the duality of man. But now let's get into the duality of a woman, right? And when we talk about a woman, we are talking about holding both softness and strength, right? And I know that most women, when I talk to them about this, they want to be in a position to where they don't have to be strong all the time, right? And I get it, right? You've been forced to handle certain things away because of the lack of support or the lack of attention, the lack of basically the lack of what am I trying to say? The lack of urgency. That's the word. And people may give you flack for being too masculine or, having a boss mentality, but you've been put in this position because you had to. And I can't fault any woman who has done things to better her household, right? That's what we're all here for, to better our households, to put ourselves in the position to not have to depend on certain people, right? And that's not to say that you can't have a support group. You can't have people that you call on for this and that. No, what I'm saying is you don't want to be that person that's always dependent, like you're living in a codependent relationship. No, I don't want to put that on any woman or any man for that matter. But when we talk about this, again, you have a soft side that you can't necessarily show to everyone because they grow attached to it, right? They want to be around it a lot, but then you also got to show that you're strong. You have to show that you can't just be soft all the time. And that duality is going to lead us into both of our points on these topics of duality. And the first one is the balance versus sacrifice, right? So I just talked about it, how you have a soft side, you have a strong side or strength side, and you balancing between that is why this whole topic of duality is a thing. Because if you're too soft, then of course people are going to try to push over on you. They're going to try to get over. They're going to try to do whatever. But if you're too strong, now you don't have any place to be soft. Now you don't have any place to rest. And for the good part of my life, I watched women basically have to handle everything. They had to be strong. They had to endure a lot of pain. And my mother was a clear example of, like, she had a soft side, right? Not everybody got the chance to see it, but she had a soft side. She had her strengths that most people would recognize her for. But that balance of the strength and softness is how I learned how to be who I am, right? It's not just about showing your strengths all the time. It's not just about being a strong person, right? You can have a soft side. You can be gentle with people. You can be kind to people. And on the flip side of that, a lot of sacrifices came from her being this person, right? She had to sacrifice a lot of friendships, a lot of family relationships, a lot of personal relationships. And while again, I'm not a person who's going to say you got to sacrifice everything to get what you want. No, that's not the case here. We as people need to stop thinking of getting ahead, right? And I know that that sounds crazy to not want to think about getting ahead, but we need to live in the present. We need to live in whatever it is that we have going on right now, whatever it is that you may be living in an apartment, you may be living in a studio setup, you may be living on the streets. And this is, especially is for the people if you don't have stuff to go home to, having that need to sacrifice to get ahead is crucial, right? I've been there where I've sacrificed my sleep, I've sacrificed time with friends, I've sacrificed a lot of things to try to get ahead. And every time I ended up losing stuff, I ended up losing more stuff, I ended up losing part of myself in the process. And that is why I'm sitting here saying to you now that balance is just as important as sacrifice, right? You can't just have one and not the other, because as soon as you think that you're getting ahead, something is going to be taken away, right? And you might not look at it as a sacrifice at the time, but for me, that's how I view things now, right? My relationships, it didn't work out. Not all of them worked out. Some of them ran its course. But the women who endured these things that, I didn't necessarily want them to have to endure, it was because they thought they had to sacrifice this, they had to sacrifice that. And that is why, again, we are sitting here having this conversation about duality, right? Embracing the fact that you need balance, right? We all need balance, but Black women especially need balance. They need to understand that it's not all about sacrificing. It's not all about putting yourself ahead or anything like that. You can do that if you want, right? That's perfectly fine, but it's all about balancing. It's all about embracing the balance and the sacrifice, because it's gonna come with some sacrifices. You're not just gonna have a balanced life, just because you want it. You have to sacrifice the distractions. You have to sacrifice some of your relationships, some of your friendships. Now, when you embrace all of that, we can get to the next thing, which is presence versus power, right? So, again, when we talk about a Black woman and her presence in any situation, it doesn't matter if it's relationship or in work, anything like that, a Black woman's presence is powerful, right? Let's just stop right there. Black woman's presence is powerful. And we give ourselves so much talk about, how a Black woman is this and Black woman is that. Again, your viewpoints on the Black woman is different from mine. I can't sit here and speak for all the Black women, but the Black women in my life that I've encountered, they all have a presence to them. And you get that as soon as you're in their vicinity and people are talking about, the things that they have going on in their lives, you see why they get the, oh, Black woman is strong label, right? Because again, they had to be, right? They had to shoulder all of this responsibility because of the lack of help. And while I'm not here to discuss the whys for all of that, I'm not here to answer that. I am here to embrace both your power and your presence, right? Because both of those play hand in hand, right? You have a power to heal, you have a power to regain your strength through rest, you have a power to use your words to spark a fire in the man, right? It's how a black woman uses her words, how she treats her man or herself. First and foremost, let me stop there. First and foremost, how you treat yourself is going to be crucial for how other people treat you. And that's one of the things that I learned from a black woman as well. Like, I can't be a person who just doesn't care about myself and then expect other people to care about me. So I think that that kind of is the whole root of like self care, because when you get to that point of like, hey, I don't want to deal with this, I don't want to deal with that, that is you saying, I'm having these boundaries for a reason, right? First and foremost. But then number two, when you do get to the point where you want to let someone in, you want to be around different energies, it's all about how you treat yourself, like, or how you treat the people that you raise. And I was just telling this to one of my good friends today, or yesterday, I should say. A man is going to see a lot about your character by how your children act, right? So if your children are respectful, they are closing doors, they are cleaning up behind themselves, that's going to say a lot about you as a black woman. That's going to say a lot about how you were raised, because you may have been that person who didn't have the people that you are now, or the support that you have now, but you said that the buck is going to stop here. You're not going to let them just run over you. You're not going to let them disrespect your household or the schoolhouse. You're not going to let that happen. So this is why I say again, that your power as a black woman is the fact that you can spark an energy into those who are around you. Your presence is powerful. How you give your energy to others is power. And we can sit here and again go on for days about how these things affect us as people. But the main thing I want to get from here is that as men and women, we have a responsibility to not only see to it that each of us are living in the present, we are giving ourselves the best opportunities to be happy, we're giving ourselves the best opportunities to rest and focus on the things that's important, right? Because there's a lot of things that we could be focused on. We could be talking about, the cases, with all of these celebrities or anything like that. But this is before the fame, right? We ain't here to talk about, the people that, we claim to be famous, right? We're here to say the things that we have going on in our lives right now, things that happened to us in our childhood, it all affects the people that we are becoming. And for those of you who have this sense of, I'm not going to let my past affect my future, you are the ones that this is for, right? You are the ones who, you get up every day, you're up before the sun rises, and this is why I dedicate my videos, my content to the believers and early risers because you believe in a better future. You believe in yourself. You believe in those around you. You believe that things are going to get better. And I thank you for having that belief. I thank you for believing in me because everything that we go through is not necessarily who we are, right? What we do is not necessarily who we are. But when you're around people who remind you of that, who you are, I tell you, man, that's a powerful thing. That's a powerful thing. And that is why after this, we're going to get more into this, right? This isn't the last episode of Duality. I'm actually having fun with this series, Education Over Shame. It definitely gave, I need to do more of this, right? This isn't going to be the last series that I do, but I've been enjoying this one, man. I've been enjoying educating myself, educating you all, and we're going to close this out. I say again to you, those who stuck it out, who watched this or listened to this, thank you so much. You can get more content on my social media pages. I'm just going to include it on this video for you guys, but if you're listening in the car or anywhere else, my TikTok and my YouTube is at JoJo's Toolbox. That's JoJoSTOOLOOLBOX. So JoJo's Toolbox. And my Instagram is Brunch Lovers Are Us. My Instagram page for Before the Fame is Before the Fame Pod or underscore pod, sorry. And also, if you guys just want to reach out, you know how to get at me. My email is ellisonj13_95. We out, man.